You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. If you trade options, you want to be smart about every decision. So why not choose the smartest platform for your trades? At Public.com, you can view upcoming earnings dates directly in the options chain. You can queue and execute multiple orders simultaneously. Easily view contract performance over time. And if you have a question about any stock, you can ask Alpha, their AI for investors. But want to know the smartest part of trading options on Public? Earning rebates on every single contract traded. No other platform provides options trading rebates, and they reduce your trading costs to less than $0 per trade. So, make the smart move and switch. The only options trading platform where you can earn rebates on every single contract traded. To learn more, please visit public.com/optionblock. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures in podcast description. U.S. members only. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again. It is time for a little show we call around these parts the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which so many of you are binging. It's that time of year, holiday time. So if you need a little break from your family, don't worry. We're here for you. Lots of content coming at you, and indeed lots of content available on the archives. Another reason why you should be listening to the full network at this point. You got everything available for you there under the sun. Of course, you want to go above and beyond. You want to get awesome pro Q&As. You want to get oddities. You want to get live. Man, oddities has been a banger of late, to put it mildly. Only one place to get it, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Treat yourself. It's the holidays. You're buying gifts for everybody else. Treat yourself to a little bit of fun. I think you're going to like it. And, of course, awesome giveaways. We give back to you folks all the time. Over there on the pro, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires as we learn who's joining us for this penultimate Monday episode of the program. Listeners, first, it is the Uncle List of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management. He is our reigning, defending 80s trivia champion, taking on the challenger, the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com, who I think we can all admit has a long way to go and not much time left to do it if he wants to climb out of the hole which he has dug for himself. But there are still, nonetheless, a few more contests left to go. Let us see who shall emerge the champion of our 80s Trivia Challenge. Here we go, listeners. All right, this week's question. I was thinking over the past weekend recently when I caught a modern adaptation of a seminal sci-fi novel that was written in 1965 and first adapted, some might say infamously, in the 80s. Oh, there we go. We got a buzz from the Rock Lobster. He is learning. Buzz early and buzz often, especially for him right now. He's got nothing to lose. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what film/book am I talking about?
Dune.
Yes. All right, a point for Rock Lobster. Wow, I haven't said that in a while. A point for the Rock Lobster.
Finishing strong.
Yes. Let's go for a half point. I will make this for anybody who wants to get it. This one could be a little bit more challenging, I suppose. Dune, a seminal, some might say an infamous adaptation in the 80s. What year did the Dune movie come out in the 80s? Buzz again, good. Mr.
85.
There you go. Gotta take a try. Not correct. Uncle Mike, can you steal? Uncle Mike, you there? Oh, Uncle Mike not swinging for the half point challenge there. All right, no.
87.
Came in a little too late. Nope. 1984. I thought I'd give you guys an extra chance. So
It was 84? Darn.
You were close. You were close, Mr. Rock Lobster. Definitely a first half of the 80s film when you see the
Because I was in college and I remember some girl I knew was excited for it to come out and I just couldn't remember 84, 85.
There you go, listeners. 1984 Dune. Have you seen it? Many people credit it with being a precursor to Star Wars. Certainly when you see the early Star Wars movies, you could see, the desert planet, the bones of the sandworm in the background. You could certainly see a lot of Dune influence there. So there certainly is some of that. It's not without its flaws. That movie especially. Have you seen the modern adaptations? They're very interesting stuff. Is this market interesting today? Let's find out, listeners. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading. I was going to ask some other questions like which rock star infamously starred in that movie, which would be Sting, one of his few acting appearances. It's an 80s movie, very much, listeners. I encourage you, if you haven't seen it, I don't know if I say run out and see it. It's one of those kind of, is it so bad it's good or just so bad it's bad movies? But either way, it's a creature of its time, shall we say? Worth noting out there. Are these markets worth noting, listeners? It kind of depends. It kind of depends what kind of market you're looking for. If you're looking for kind of a mixed market to kick off our penultimate trading week here of the year, then that's exactly what you got. You're a happy camper. NASDAQ up about 0.8%. The S&P starting to get the bit in its teeth now, up about almost 0.5%, about 0.45%. That's after kind of looks like maybe selling off a little bit earlier. It's like they wanted to trend it lower and then rebounding. How low do we get? Let's see. We got down to about not quite 5,900, but almost breaking through it. So from that level, we are up almost 50 handles from there, 59, 55 or so. So a little bit of a rebound out there. Dow still the laggard. Dow just can't get out of its own way these days. Dow off about 0.1%, and our old pal small caps off about 0.33%. So a decidedly mixed market out there, but a little bit of red on the screen is not enough to keep VIX frothy, keep VIX elevated. We know VIX came roaring back to life last week. You heard us talk about it, I should say, on Vol Views last week. If you missed it, go check it out. Coming back to not quite Earth, because we were down, 13 handle not too long ago, but still pretty frothy and lower than it was. Not quite kissing a 27, which was, of course, as we discussed last week on the show, a ridiculous number. VIX never really got to 27, but some people saw that print. It was a weird time. Fed day, the day that VIX is going the way of the dodo. All sorts of madness going on at the same time. VIX right now, almost 10 handles below that ridiculous number of 27 at about a 17.75 as we kicked off the show. Puts it down over 5 points, about 5.5 points from where we were on the Thursday show when stuff was rocking and indeed rolling out there. VVIX still frothy, certainly at a higher level. A lot of people thought for the end of the year, 111. Most people had vol kind of going into the toilet down the drain at this point. So a VVIX of 111, even though it's down 18 points, still much frothier than a lot of people expected this time of year. All right, a lot to unpack. The Rock Lobster as our victor for this week. You get the dubious honor of going first, sir. If you have any seminal memories of the uber 80s movie that is David Lynch's 1984 film Dune, including the star turn by Sting, have at it, sir. And then B, what else is catching your eye? And kind of a mixed start to the week.
Yeah, to be honest, I can't remember. I remember like Kyle MacLachlan was in it and Sting.
Oh, there you go.
And
you got points for that.
It was just boring. I just remember the movie being boring, but I'll bet you the book was much better.
They both have their boring parts, let's just say. Dune is definitely an acquired taste, the book and the movie.
But that's really all I got on the Dune front, I have to say. You know what? And it was so good, they decided, didn't they do a remake?
Yeah, it just came out, the first one came out a few years ago, and the new one came out last year, I believe.
Yeah, so they did such a good job. They're like, we're going to do it again. Oh, what a giggle. Anyway. So as far as the market goes, well, you would think we would try to get to that 6,000 number, wouldn't you, this week? Before, we're 44 points away, SPX. They tried to sell it off this morning. There is still a bit of a vol hand grenade explosion from Wednesday, unless anybody, which I think might be a theme for 2025. We might see a few more of these some more of these deep sell-offs, deep quick sell-offs that, folks kind of have oversold options, oversold vol, and then have to cover, and, they create a little mess for themselves. So I think we might see a little more of that. Again, that's a trading thing, not necessarily an investing thing, but probably more of those. But I would still say the VIX is still holding up well at this level. The fact that it's still 1767, although it is, I guess since Wednesday, I believe we are trading at a low right now. Let me see, 5-day. I'm pretty sure this is a low. Yep, we just made a low for the last since last Wednesday. So, would it surprise me if VIX was 14 sometime next week? Nope. Because the market does have to react somewhat to the vol we had, and everybody's still waiting for, okay, is it going to be worse? Is it going to be better? But for the most part, I think there are market participants. They read a lot of news. They don't believe everything they read, at least, well, some of them maybe, but and they're looking for better things ahead. So we'll see how that all turns out. But as we have known from the previous 4 years of the Trump administration, we ended up with a single-digit volatility for a while, which was quite surprising. And then, holy gosh, did we have some interesting things happen. So just keep that in your memory banks, everybody. You could see the only thing we're going to predict is that it will be incredibly unpredictable going forward.
So the Rock Lobster, on the record, he is calling for single-digit VIX yet again in the Trump presidency. No, we're kidding. Listen, we are joking, but yeah, no one had that on the docket. And unless I risk repeating history, it doesn't seem like we're headed for that. We're heading back for this era of, what did he tweet today? I think we had all moved past that as a market, and now we're kind of back in that. Wait, he said what today? He tweeted what? About what company? So there's gonna be a lot of that to look forward to over the next few years, listeners. So just keep an eye out on that. Let's go out now to Uncle Mike, who lost this week, but is still our reigning, defending 80s Trivia Challenge champion. If you have any enduring memories of the seminal sci-fi film or the novel, whatever you like, that is Dune, even though the book came out in the 60s, have at it. And then B, what's catching your eye in, I guess, partially Uncle Mike type of day.
Well, just the fact that the way that question was worded, I've never heard of the movie, so I don't even know if it even exists. So I think you and Andrew are on the take. I think you got something going on late in the game here. So I really don't know what's happening here.
Never heard of Dune. Uh-oh. Demerit.
So
Demerit for Uncle Mike.
He loses one question. One question. And he just goes right to the mattresses.
Right to the jugular. I think we're all seeing this contest has brought out
Luca Brasi, I'll bet you they're distant relatives. He and Luca Brasi.
I don't even know Luca Brasi. Who's this?
How can you even be American and not know who Luca Brasi is?
Oh, he doesn't know Dune. He doesn't know Luca Brasi. Uncle Mike and I have to.
Now my national patriotic citizenship and my loyalty to my country is being questioned. You guys are on the take
how
somehow.
How do you not know Luca Brasi?
You guys are on the take.
Luca Brasi of He Who Sleeps with the Fishes.
Jesse Ventura.
I can't even. I don't even know what to say.
You don't know who. You probably don't even know who the big boss man is.
All I can say is cultural icons. Luca Brasi, Sleeping with the Fishes, is heads and shoulders above whoever else that guy you just said was.
Oh, the big boss man can take him. My money's on the big boss man. I no longer.
No, my money's on Luca Brasi.
Luca Brasi was a bit of a badass, at least in the book. That's why he had to sleep with the fishes. You couldn't get to the Godfather until you took out Luca Brasi first. That's why they had to kill him. But
that's why they had to
70s. My money's on the big boss man. He's Law and Order in Cobb County, Georgia.
Boss man had a sweet stick, so I mean that could certainly come in his favor as well. So Uncle Mike, no memories of Dune. So there we go. Rock Lobster, I could have just made it all Dune questions all year long. You might have had a fighting chance, sir.
I might have had a fighting chance.
Maybe. 52 weeks of Dune trivia. That would have been stretching it even for me. So Uncle Mike, aside from your lack of Dune and or apparently Godfather knowledge, I guess we got to do Godfather now. Even though that is a 70s film. You're right. We'll have to figure out something from the 80s version we don't really speak of. But Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what's catching your eye in today's market?
I mean, not a lot. We do have a little bit of a bid that's being caught today, so to speak. But I mean, overall, this is we're at the 6,000 magnet, it appears, until the end of the year. I'll go out on a limb and say that we will finish somewhere between 59.90 and 6,010 for December, for the last day of trading this year. So that's my prediction of where we will be for 2020. For 2025, wow, it's even hard to say that. It's just the years are going by so fast. The things that I am looking to in the new year, you had mentioned how we have the Trump tweets, and I'm definitely looking forward to looking at the Trump tweet trades. When my favorite time pre-COVID with Trump was always, we're going to raise the tariffs. We're going to tax everything. The market would tank. And there's your buy signal. You buy something somehow, some way. And then when that happens, markets go up. When he says, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm not going to really do that. And whether you like Trump or hate Trump, trades like that were very fun for me in the early Trump administration, not going to lie. So I'll be looking to see if that comes back. And then just for the rest of this week, I really don't see a lot of things happening over the course of the next week and a half. If we do get a little mini Santa Claus rally, I could see this going to around the 6,000 mark. But I think we got a 6,000 magnet.
6,000 magnet for Uncle Mike. I was just looking up some quotes about Luca Brasi while you were talking, Uncle Mike, just for fun. This is the rabbit holes that the Rock Lobster leads me down on a very quiet penultimate trading week of the year, listeners. This is how Mario Puzo describes Luca Brasi. Luca Brasi was indeed a man to frighten the devil in hell himself. Short, squat, massive skulled, his presence sent out alarm bells of danger. His face was stamped into a mask of fury. The eyes were brown, but with none of the warmth of that color, more a deadly tan. The mouth was not so much cruel as lifeless, thin, rubbery, and the color of veal. Luca Brasi did not fear the police. He did not fear society. He did not fear God. He did not fear hell. He did not fear love or his fellow man, but he had chosen to fear and love Don Corleone. And that is why you had to kill Luca Brasi before you could get to the Don, because Luca Brasi was an untamed beast. You touch the Don, he's coming for you like a whirlwind. They don't really convey that well in the movie. That he just is a guy who just sleeps with the fishes. In the book, Luca Brasi, bit of a badass. All right, let's keep rolling out here. See the rabbit holes. The rabbit holes that the Rock Lobster leads me down on these dark, dark days. Is it a dark day in the market? Once again, listeners, as it typically does, it depends where you hang your hat in this kind of weird market we're all stuck looking at for the end of the year here. For example, if you are a hardcore vol trader, you live and die by all things VIX, you might be once again checking your screen and saying, is this thing working? Is this thing on? Did VIX wake up today? I mean, now, granted, we are in that time of year, so I think seasonally, this ADV is a little distorted. I mean, it shouldn't be around 716 this late into December. We all know should be a little bit lighter. So that's probably distorting. We probably should be more expecting of a 211,000 contract day this time of year in VIX. But when I get to some of the other indexes, you're going to say, well, this is interesting. Right now, not much going up in VIX. The most active thing out there today, I said 211,000 contracts. We got 18,000 of the March 40s, and then 9,000 of the March 35s. Are we doing a 1x2, 5 handles wide? Now I have to look. This is what I get for pulling up this nonsense. March 40s, they went up a couple of blocks for $1 against March 19 puts. Oh, it's one of those synthetics again against the 40. Yeah, okay. Our old friend, that's literally all we have going up out here. Again, 211,000 contracts. So VIX forgot to get out of bed. Someone go wake up VIX because it is not playing ball today. Now, when I say that, you might expect SPY to be at 3.75 million contracts. And you would be surprised. SPY roaring out of the gate on this penultimate trading week of the year here. Almost 5.4 million contracts. That's about exactly 1 million contracts more than we expect this time of day. So it is kind of a weird disconnect to have SPY roaring out of the gate while VIX is literally still asleep in its bed. I mean, that's kind of strange if you know how these products are linked. You know, it's kind of weird. Where one goes, the other usually follows. Yet, kind of seen a bit of disconnect. The ADV, nearly 7 million. Seems like we're going to hit that today on a sleepy Monday to kick off the week. Not so sleepy in SPY, though. Now, what about the S? You might be saying, yes. If SPY's doing business, the S's kind of have to be following suit, right? And the answer is yes, about 1.8 million. So right around where we expected, a little, maybe a slightly heavy. We expected around 1.75 million this time of the show. We're at 1.8 right now, just ticked. The ADV 3.06. So yeah, pretty active out there. Not as hot as SPY, but pretty active, all things considered, out here for this time of day, and certainly what time of year it is out here in the S. Same deal in small caps? Well, the answer is yes. I dare I say it, they're pretty respectable as well. Well north of half of their ADV. 1.07 million contracts on the tape right now in small caps, which is pretty hot, all things considered, for, again, a usually kind of sleepy, quiet Monday. The big dog out there today, they love these Jan puts and put spreads. We got 111,000 of the Jan 209 puts. Lighten up the tape today. That is the number one trade. So obviously not 0 day all the time. Number 2 are the Jan 211s, 90,000 of those. So we could have a put spread / roll. Lighting it up out here today. 211 puts went up $2.56. Looks like paper might have sold those. And the 209s, $2.15. So you're doing that $2 put spread. That's not that exciting, but either way, that's what's going up for size out there today here, listeners. SPY putting up some numbers. SPY certainly looking exciting. And the Q's saying, hey, don't forget about me. 2.5 million contracts. So pretty much everything today, with the exception of the VIX in terms of major indices we're going to talk about here on the show today, lighten up the tape pretty strong. So you would never guess this was a sleepy Monday towards the tail end of December in the holiday season, a couple of days from Christmas. There's 2.5 million contracts on the tape and the Qs. That is pretty respectable, all things considered. The ADV 4.1 million, probably going to hit that today. Now let's go out to the single names. That's got to be Sleepy Town, right? That can't be super hot madness afoot out there in those names, can it? And you'd be pretty much right. It's kind of quiet, which is what you would expect. 208,000 contracts. That's not quite dog days of summer. It's also not quite what you'd expect for this time of year. You actually expect a little less, probably around 150, 160,000. So 208 is, dare I say it, respectable. Also, when you see some of these names lighten up our top 10, you know that it may be a little bit of different names popping in on our list today, which is always fun. Also maybe shows you what time of year we're in here. APA number 10, a.k.a. the holding company for good old Apache. We used to talk about Apache all the time. APA doesn't have the same ring to it. Out here, they are, of course, engaged in hydrocarbon exploration, listeners. Ticker symbol APA, $21.50, up about half a buck, or about 2% today. So A nice little day for hydrocarbon expiration. On the year, though, no bueno. If you bought and hold Apache this year, you're off nearly $16 or 42%. So no AI love for you out here this year, man. Taking it on the chin out here is Apache. At least they're rebounding off their low for the year, which looks like this past week at $20.32. But a rough year, number 10 for Apache here. That shows you again maybe how quiet and sleepy things are out there when Apache's sneaking into our top 10. Number 9, one of our more regular offenders out here, even though this is a newer addition to our top 10 as well. This is, of course, our old pal, Intel, my old stomping grounds, 20 and a quarter, up about 70 cents or about 3.5% today. So nice little pop for Intel today, even though on the year, they're kind of like our friends in Apache. They're off 60% or $30. So been a rough run. They're bouncing off their 52-week low of $18.50. So about $1.70 north of that. So not too bad. Either way, 211,000 contracts on the tape for the number 9 spot out there, listeners. Number 8, our old pal, the monster, rearing its ugly head yet again, aka MicroStrategy. MSTR, 245 on the tape, 344.20 off $20 exactly, or 5.5%, not 20.01, not 19.99, $20 exactly. So they are coming for MicroStrategy today. The monster, are they slaying the monster today? They got a ways to go, I think, before they slay this monster. It's had quite the year. A year ago, it was $60.39. So they could crush this all the way back sub 100 and it would still be up for the year, listeners. So quite the run, even though it is off its highs set immediately after the election of 543. So we're almost $200 below that. We're at 344 right now. So my goodness. Hopefully you sold it shortly after the election, listeners. Either way, the monster looking maybe a little bit tamer today. Number 8, 245. Number 7, you know it's a quiet day when this one's sneaking in. This is Tilray Brands. You know them out there in the cannabis lifestyle sector, listeners. $1.40, up about 14 cents or 11% today. I don't know what's driving them. Looks like just literally more buyers than sellers out here in Tilray. Not a name that usually makes it on our tape because it's a $1.40 stock. Coming in at number 7 today, 267,000 contract. Let's just look for curiosity's sake, shall we, listeners? Let's see. What are folks up to out here in Tilray? I'm going to guess they're buying some upside calls. And that is the case. You got about 40,000 of the Jan 2s. Ooh, the 2s. Wow. Need this thing to go on a rampage. Got 2 halves trading today for about 9 cents. 2s trading 14 cents today. Ooh. The 1/2s in December expiring this week. What are those going for, listeners? Let's see. Those are going for about 7 cents. I suppose. Getting a little pop out there. You want to roll them bones. See how it works. Either way. Tilray, number 7. I don't know. Jan 2's, listeners. That's quite the run for this name to go on. But we've seen stranger things out there. Speaking of stranger things, listeners, has there been a stranger story this year than the late resurgence of this name, a.k.a. Broadcom/AVGO, number 6 on our list. 370,000 contracts on the tape. 232, pretty much exactly, up nearly $12, or about 5.5% today. You know the deal on this name. Another one that's been on the rampage. 113 a year ago. So it has more than doubled now at 232, pretty much exactly, including a huge pop. It was 171 just 2 weeks ago. It had a massive pop, even though it is off its high of looks like about 252, so about $20 off its high. But still, just quite the rampage for AVGO. Where will it go from here? I guess we'll find out. Today it is number 6, 370,000 contracts. If you like yourself a little bit of A tech names, don't worry, we got some more for you, including number 5, the Fruit Company, 436, finally selling off after this kind of next leg up it's been on. 254, pretty much even off about $0.50, so pretty much a rounding error. Past month, it is up 9% or 21 handles, this name. My goodness. Past 6 months, it's up, of course, 22%. Year to date, it is up 37%. You go back all the way 1 year, it's actually a little less. It's up 31%. So, yes, the heady days when they decided to just buy back all their stock. Number 5, the Fruit Company, 436,000. Now, this is the kind of paper we expected today. Stocks kind of drifting aimlessly. Not a ton of paper on the tape. So the hot SPY and everything else out there. Kind of weird. Speaking of hot, Palantir, number 4, 571. Hitting an 80 handle now. So it's 80.35. Actually selling off 20 cents today, but hitting an 80 handle recently. That's kind of interesting after selling off a couple of times over the past week, threatening the 70 handle multiple times over the past week. They rallied it back up to $80. 571 on the tape for Palantir, number 4. Number 3, A Tech names. We are not done, listeners. If the Fruit Company and AVGO and Apache were not enough for you, how about number 3, AMD? Yes, number 3, AMD, sneaking in there. 684,000 contracts today, 125.16, up nearly $6 or about 5%. So a nice day for AMD. After a kind of a rough month, they're off about 12% or about 16 handles over the past month. We all know the regulatory scrutiny this sector's coming under, mostly from China. So AMD's felt some of that hate as well. But maybe they're getting some of that back today. Number 3, 684. Number 2, this one's become hot again post-election. This is, of course, Tesla, 433.5, up $12.5. Mostly linked to the fortunes of its founder. Can't really make a lot of money, at least, on electric cars. So other things are driving the stock these days. 433, number 2, 1.37 million. 433 exactly, up nearly $12 or about 2.84%. Past month is up 27% or 94 handles. My goodness. Good little run for them. They were threatening 200 not too long ago, listeners. And then number 1, you know what it is. NVIDIA hanging out at pretty much its usual volume level this time of day, about 2.3 million contracts. That's almost exactly what we'd expect this time of day. So NVIDIA kind of playing its role, 138.90, getting back 420, or about a little over 3% today. So maybe all this concern over regulatory fears is a bit undone. We are overdone. Maybe we shall see. Let's see, a month ago they were 136, and they took it up to about 152, actually. That might have been earlier. That might have been back in right after the election. But this past month, they got up to about 145, and then they came for it, obviously, down to 128. Back up $10 from that level now to 138. So interesting little recovery here for NVIDIA. Is earnings season, is that recovering here, listeners? Not a lot popping off this week, as you would expect, given the fact that it is pretty much Christmas week out here. We talked about Nike popping off last week, some other names popping off last week. Nike kind of screwing the pooch out there, so not a lot of love for them. The season right now hanging out at 123%. That is up above our long-term average of 114%. As we keep on rolling, listeners, it is time to get weird. It is time to get wild. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's get weird, let's get wild, let's get a little whimsical. Let's kick things off, paying off a trade, actually, from last Monday on the show. We talked about somebody coming in to Rimini Street. They are based out of Las Vegas, but they are the owner of Rimini Street, Malaysia. So there you go. At the time, the stock was trading about 2.25. They've had an interesting year. Mostly selling off. They were 341 a year ago. They really crushed it in July from about 315 on July 30th down August, obviously August, after August 5th into August 7th. They crushed it pretty much almost in half. Actually, almost exactly in half. It was 315 on July 30th. It was $1.60 pretty much on August 7th. So they really crushed it. It has slowly been trying to regain its footing ever since. It was $2 just a few weeks ago. It's had a nice run over the last week. It got from about $2 up to 272. Actually, it looks like 343 would have been earlier this year. So it's like 272 was about the high, and then hanging out at that level right now. At this time a week ago, listeners, we said, somebody was feeling their oats here in good old Rimini. They came in with the stock right around 2.25 and said, "These two halves, how are they?" They got no bid at 15 cents, which I love my no bid markets, listeners. They said, "We will pay 15 cents, 2,094 times." At the time, there really was no earnings, no other obvious catalyst to really drive this thing. The earnings are on February 26th. It was kind of a bit of a head scratcher. We thought, well, they're kind of paying up. It's quite expensive for what was effectively amounted to a 1 week roll of the dice. The stock had to rally 10% just to break even on these calls. Seemed like a bit of a Herculean task, but we've seen wilder, we've seen weirder, we've seen just crazier things at the end of the day. And, when they bought these, it was right ahead of a nice little pop in the stock. The stock got up to the next day. Let's see, it closed actually on Monday after we were talking about it, 2.25. It closed at 216 or 262, excuse me. So it had a nice little run. And then hit the next day, the 17th, it hit 272. So they had their chance to get out of these and maybe even make a little money. Not much, probably a nickel, maybe a dime, but you're only paying 15 cents for them. So percentage-wise, that looks good. And yet, that was not the case, listeners. These were still open when the stock closed pretty much exactly at their strike on Friday, Mr. Rock Lobster, $2.52. So they were right. The stock did run. They just didn't have the right strike, or they just didn't have the right timing to get out of it with any sort of money. Now, that said, the stock is 271 again, so it looks like they ended up buying some stock for 250, obviously plus 15 cents, or 265. So the stock is back up to about 272, so they're looking all right on the stock they bought. I don't know, Mr. Rock Lobster, a bit of a weird one. No real catalyst in terms of why they would want to buy 10% out of the money calls in a stock with a week to go. No real reason. Seems like they kind of worked out to, well, the options didn't, but if they hold the stock now, they're looking a little better. Well, what are your thoughts on these Rimini calls that didn't really work out, but maybe could in the long run?
So you think they took delivery of the stock because they didn't close these options, what you're saying?
That is my assumption, unless they just did a, hey, no bueno, we don't want the stock either, in which case they just did nothing. They just lost 15 cents.
I mean, that is, first off, you feel bad for the person that paid 15 cents for these, with the stock like trading, 2 and change. Like that, I guess they were looking for a quick 100% on that. But, well, I guess they're making money now. Maybe they're laughing at us right now. But that's the only thing I can think. Maybe like, again, kind of a weird. It's an odd purchase, but they were looking for a little like bounce pop into the end of the, because we had kind of that sell off. So I mean, not unreasonable, but if you look at what it's doing today, I guess they just caught the news a little late. They must have taken delivery, because it feels like the news came out today, not when they wanted it to.
Yeah, I would assume they took it. So they lost on the options, listeners, but they keep the stock in the long run. Could be a good do, as the kids say at the end of the day. It was kind of a weird one, and still, yeah, one of those just strange ones. Strange market, strange trade, strange timing, and kind of worked out in a nebulous fashion, which is always fun here for the. We like nice conclusions we can make for you folks, and sometimes the trades just don't work out that way, listeners. Let's go out to a newcomer to the network. This is EMKR Corp, ticker symbol EMKR. They are a leading provider of advanced navigation systems for aerospace and defense industries. $3 right now, unched. I'm going to guess you'd think aerospace and defense, you'd think it'd probably be a decent year. And it's been a good, 7 months or so. Since May, it was $1. So it's gone up. It's gone up to $3 from $1. So that's pretty good. But before that, it was trading $4.30 in December, and it got up to $7.20 in January. So from that level, this thing was a dumpster fire, and they crushed it down to 78 cents in June. Wow. So it went from $7.20 in January to 78 cents in June. My God. Almost a tenth of its value. Wow. No bueno. And then they kind of hung out there in that $1 range until September. Then they popped hard. It went from about $1.20 up to $2.45 on October 1st. So looks like probably some good earnings maybe. Then kind of nice little pop again from November 1st, $2 up to $3 on November 8th. Obviously, we know what happened there. Then's kind of been treading water almost exactly around $3 ever since. In fact, this almost looks like a takeover, the way it's got such a stair step to it, but it's not that, it's only short-lived, so it's just strange how it just trades into the next level, then sits there for a while. That looks very much like a takeover type name, but I don't see any corporate actions around this name. So, yeah, strange one, just a very stair-step chartless. And it looks like somebody, Mr. Rock Lobster, is coming in saying we are due for that next stair step up pretty soon, and a pretty decent one as well, because they came in and said, March 5s, how are they? They got no bid at 30 cents. Now, these traded for 20 cents, so I'll have to go dig in. It is possible they found someone to pay 20 cents 1,620 times, in which case the market would have been 20 at 30. You know, these no-bid markets drive me crazy. But they went up 20 cents. The earnings are today after the bell, actually. So this could be just somebody just scooping some upside here ahead of the earnings, in which case it's weird that they're buying March and the 5 strike, because stock needs to really get the bit in its teeth to hit the 5 strike. This is, let's see, this is a 90 vol, so not exactly the cheapest of trades out here from a vol perspective. But, you know, these names, vol and strike, sometimes can be meaningless around earnings, especially with the way these things trade of late. Mr. Rock Lobster, what do you think they were up to? Do you think they bought or sold these, and what are your thoughts on the 5 strike in March for 20 cents, sir?
Well, I'm looking, they provide inertial navigation products for aerospace and defense. So when I hear stuff like that, my ear perks up and I think drone. Potential drone.
They're the ones that taking over New Jersey. It's them.
Yep. And I have a product at Option Pick called Capital Gains, where I have this a colleague of mine, Frank, is kind of he started a drone company. He's kind of an interesting dude, but he has a lot of these kind of sectors that are sort of out of play, but have a lot of great growth stocks in it. And the drone thing, he's been drone all year, and it's produced some like crazy picks stocks. We've done really, really well. And like, he's like, okay. And like, this is a year ago, like, okay, big defense contractors will be out. They're going to fight tooth and nail. And they're like, drones are going to replace fighter. There'll be a place for fighter jets or whatever, but the drone all this stuff is getting just nutty. Anyway. So when I see stuff like this, my head, I'm actually going to give him this name. So I can see why they're buying the 5s, because these things have can just spark these little small cap stocks. So I would say I've seen enough of these now. We've had a lot of them go from $3, $4 to 10, 9, 11, 12, $20, because the market caps are so small. So yeah, I would say this, if it is one of those, and it appears to be, I'm just saying, not that, like the long-term options, we've been playing 3 to 6 months with this stuff, just because it's not, I would say, a one-day trade type of stock. So, but yeah, I would say, yeah, if this is in the category, the Defense Department is looking at all these drones. So there are these drones and the drone tech. So I would just, on that basis, I think it's totally reasonable for those calls.
You might hear some maybe reasonable, perhaps not reasonable activity. So I was saying, this market was kind of unreasonable, no bid at 30. Well, they started off, Mr. Rock Lobster, no bid at a nickel for these calls. And somebody came in and said, okay, I will buy them for a nickel 506 times. You know what came next? Those dreaded words for a market maker. How are they now? They gave them no bid at a dime. They bought 605 more for a dime about 5 seconds later, maybe about 10 minutes later. And then they came back and said, how are they now? And the market makers were like, F you, no bid at 30. They said, we will pay 20 cents for the balance 1,620. So they just bought up this entire market, which is why they traded 20 cents.
And I had to say, I've seen some of that happen this year, and I'm glad I don't have to sell these junk calls in these stocks.
Whoever was at a nickel, now they're like, please sell them back to me for a dime. Please, please, kind sir.
That has tale of sadness and woe written all over it, if I've ever seen it.
Now that I see that the torrid history of this option, this contract today, makes this market make a little more sense.
Some of these trades, don't you just, you're like, I'm kind of glad I'm not having this.
Yeah. I could see with each one of these consecutive markets, I could see the market makers breaking a little more. Like, oh, here we go. Oh, no, now they're broken. The good news is
you could just you could buy stock 1-to-1 and it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, listeners, kind of an interesting one. Are you down for a little bit of drone love? Somebody's gobbling up all the March 5s they can get, bidding this strike up to nearly a triple-digit vol just to get them, scaring the hell out of the market makers in the process. So maybe that's worth noting. We got to get to Uncle Mike's. Let me just do this last one really quickly. It's got LWLG Inc., ticker symbol LWLG. They are a proprietary platform to develop next-gen electro-optic polymers. There we go. Trading $2 right now, up 11 cents. On the year, they're actually off $3.50 or 63%. So a bad year for them. Somebody came in and said, March 3s, how are they with the stock $2.19? They got 25 cents at 40. They said, we will pay 40 cents 1,211 times. So that is about a 151 vol. So someone looking for the turnaround here in LWLG as well. Is it as cool, as sexy as the drones? I don't know. I'll leave it up to you. But you know what is always cool? What is always sexy? It's the strategy block. So let's get to it.
It's time to dispense options wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Uncle Mike, 10 minutes, all about your love of Dune. Have at it, sir. The floor is yours.
It's going to be a long 10 minutes, unfortunately, for that, based upon my love of Dune, if you will. But what I do want to talk about today, Andrew had mentioned selling calls for a nickel or buying or whatever. I want to revisit a topic that we haven't talked about in a little while, and that is closing out short options. So if I'm selling an option and I get $1 for it, let's say, there's several choices that you have when you're short an option. Now, whether you're selling a call, a put, whatever the case may be, it's not relevant for what I'm going with. But when you sell something, you can either let the market do whatever it wants to do, meaning if the market goes your way from the standpoint of if it's a short call, the market goes down, short put, market goes up, and you just let it expire worthless, you can do that. And just take whatever the market gives you if you can. You're essentially pleading no contest. So in other words, if the market goes against you, then you'll take assignment. Or if the market goes your way or stays the same, let's say it's at the money or out of the money, then it'll also expire worthless. So that's one choice that you have. Another choice with which you have is that if the market goes your way, you can close the short option before expiration. And there's a lot of debate that goes on of whether you should do it, how you should do it, where you should do it. And that's what I want to talk about today. So for closing short options, if I'm selling a put for the purpose of getting into a stock or selling a covered call because I want to get called away, but I want to get the maximum income on it, if that's the situation, I actually do nothing. And I know that I have the money to cover it if I get put the stock, because that's what I want. I wanted to get the stock anyway. Or I know that I already own the stock. If I'm trying to get called away and I just wanted the income and any gains on the stock, I do nothing. I let the market do its thing. And that's my strategy for it. However, let's say I'm leveraging myself. Let's say it is, or I don't want to get called away, or I'm trying to just collect the premium. Well, if that's the case, I don't plead no contest. I don't let the market do its thing. I have an order in typically. Let's say I sell an option for $1. My rule is if I'm in that situation and I just want the income, then I usually put in a standing limit order to get out of it at 20 cents. And the illustration with which I like to use on it, if I am just looking for income and income in and of itself, and I don't want to mess with assignment in any way, shape, or form, I like to get out of it. But there's a point to where, is it really worth it, that final 20 cents? And the illustration with which I like to use is picture a wet towel, and the towel is soaking wet. Well, what you can do with the towel, you can squeeze the towel over the sink and you'll get a lot of the water to come out of it. You'll squeeze a lot of the water out of it. But you're never going to quite squeeze every drop of water out of it. No matter how hard you squeeze, that towel's still going to be a little bit wet. And I like to use that illustration because if you get to a point with your option to where you can get 80% of your potential credit, I like to get out at that point if I'm not looking to get assigned. And the reason is that it's going to be very difficult to get that remaining 20% most of the time. It's going to be like trying to make a wet towel totally dry by squeezing it out. You can try, but it's difficult to do. And usually, in my opinion, the last week until expiration or 2 weeks till expiration or whatever it is, waiting on that final 20%, it's like trying to squeeze every last bit of water out of that towel. It's just not going to be worth it. So if that's the case, what I like to do and the rule of thumb that I like to use is when I can get 80% of my potential profit on a short option, if I'm not trying to be assigned or if I don't want to deal with any expiration issues at all, that's my point to get out because I think it's just too hard to squeeze the towel. And that is my strategy for today. Merry Christmas.
All right. Is it a Merry Christmas? Let's find out as we go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where you folks take the reins. Well, actually, we tell you what was going on, and you also take the reins, listeners, in our question of the week. I was just posting a fun little flash poll for you folks right now about these March 5s in EMKR. Are you a fan? You like bidding them up all the way to 20 cents? Are you like sold to you at that price? Would you say maybe I'd buy them for a nickel, but not for 20 cents? Are you out on drones? By the way, this company does create some fiber optic and guidance stuff that does go into unmanned aerial vehicles. So this is drone adjacent, shall we say, out there. So interesting stuff. We'll leave it up to you. Oh, right now, 100% of our audience saying sold to you on these calls. I could certainly see how that is shaping up. Mr. Rock Lobster, nickel bid all the way up to 20 cents. Are you saying sold to you, or it sounds like maybe you've been run over a few times and now you're like, I'll just pay the 20 cents and see what happens because you are a convert to the drone war, sir. And what do you think our audience is going to say, A? And B, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week?
You know, I don't know. I think our audience isn't degenerate call buyers. So my guess would be they'd probably say no. In this case, I would just go purchase the stock. I'll tell you what, though, a nickel or a dime is, you don't need much to make yourself happy. That's the key. But I think you're going to see a lot more out of these stocks in the next several years. What am I looking at this week? Nothing. I'm taking the week off. I don't care what happens in the market. 90% of my positions are closed. Woohoo! It's been a great year. So I would guess, though, VIX probably trades, 15 and a half, somewhere like that by the end of the week. And the market wants 6,000. That seems to be kind of the level we're going to be around until the inauguration, and we actually see what new stuff comes and how excited we can get about AI, drones, technology, nuclear energy, and all this stuff that will be in the future. There we go.
Mr. Uncle Mike, where do you fall on the drones? Are you looking up into the skies and saying, buy them calls? What do you think our audience is up to? And B, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week? No, by the way, no option block on Thursday. I'm not a monster. I'm not going to make these folks come in the day after Christmas, make the flow master come in. Let them all rest. Let them unwrap their gifts and celebrate the season. So no show on Thursday. So Uncle Mike, what are you keeping an eye on until next Monday, sir?
Well, in honor of Boxing Day this Thursday and not being able to come on in, just not really looking at a lot of things. Stuff that needs to be hedged is hedged. Stuff that needs to be long is long. And just not really looking at anything. And then in terms of I think our audience is our call buyers. And if I had the choice, if it were to me, I would probably be a stock buyer as well, because high flyers pun intended, by the way, sometimes they take a little bit longer to develop. And that's my take on it.
That is his take indeed. As for your takes, listeners, right now, 2/3 of you are saying sold to you. We didn't even make it that binary this time. We didn't just say buy them or sell them. We gave you some nuance. We said maybe you liked them better for a nickel, where they traded this morning. Right now, 2/3 of you just went live like a minute ago. So 2/3 of you are saying roughly sold to you, about roughly a third saying you want to pay 20 cents. You're in the Rock Lobster camp. In terms of our actual question of the week, we said quite simply, a lot of you folks have been caught up in the frenzy that is IBIT. Have you been lured to the dark side of crypto options through IBIT? Yes, you're on the dark side. Not yet, but you're crypto curious, or crypto isn't for you. 100% of you right now chiming in to say you have been lured to the dark side by IBIT, including Noel Smith from Convex, who's been on our Volview side. He wrote in to say IBIT paper is great. And our frequent commenter / humorist Vernon Griffin says, hell no, I prefer my investments like my jokes, solid. And not likely to disappear overnight. Besides, the only dark side I'm interested in involves epic space battles, lightsabers, and mass villains. All right, well then maybe can I interest you in maybe a lesser tier 80s franchise known as Dune that we talked about today, which very much inspired Star Wars, and of course came out in the 60s and has been redone pretty masterfully, I would say, in these new ones. If you want just a beautiful visual feast, go check out these new Dune movies, listeners. I mean, the story you may or may not like, but visually they are stunning. That is something that's worth watching just for that. Speaking of checking things out online, listeners, you know where to go to check out the folks who have been supporting the show pretty much most of the year. It is our friends over there at Public. Final couple of weeks of the year, head on over to public.com/optionblock. It's your last chance to let them know, hey, you're coming in from the show. And we like you. We thank you for supporting this show. It's been coming to you throughout the year. One easy way to do it, public.com/optionblock. Maybe you get a rebate or two while you're there. Not the worst thing, public.com/optionblock. And Mr. Rock Lobster, where should they go if they want more Rock Lobster goodness in their lives, sir?
Yeah, go to 888-TRADE-01. All my products make money. You can actually look at my trades, make money, and learn how to trade options. Oh my gosh, we post all of our results at Option Pit. So, hey, you can check it out. You can learn how to trade these options. Just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, and a little bit of learning. You can do it. You can be an option trader. Come on over to optionpit.com. We have been doing it for, dear, I say 13 years, and we're going on 14. So, anyway, if you want to learn how to trade, that is the place to go.
Stay tuned for his forthcoming All Drones All the Time newsletter.
Yes! Attack of the Drones.
The Drone Battle. Black Drones over Jersey. That's what it's going to be called. Stay tuned for that. The Rock Lobster likes a good conspiracy. Now he could combine them all of his love for drones and his love for options in one newsletter. So stay tuned for that in a little bit. In the meantime, listeners, check him out over there at optionpit.com. But don't check him out this week. He's going on vacation. Can't blame him out there. And Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, stcharleswealth.com. Is that where they should go to kick the tires and light the fires?
Absolutely. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, follow me at Mike Tosaw, Tosaw. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Indeed. Merry Christmas to all. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Whatever you celebrate out there, have a good week. We will see you back here in a little bit for the crypto rundown. So we're not done with the live content for you this week. Then you will get a sampling of some of your regulars. Obviously, Wednesday, going to have the Christmas holiday, so no shows coming out on the old Wednesdays. Thursday, of course, not a monster, not making folks come in to record shows on those days. So they get a nice day off. Nice guy that I am, listeners. But we will be back on Friday talking all things vol, so stay tuned for that. And then we will be back next Monday, post-holiday, heading into the new year, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
If you trade options, you want to be smart about every decision. So why not choose the smartest platform for your trades? At public.com, you can view upcoming earnings dates directly in the options chain. You can queue and execute multiple orders simultaneously. Easily view contract performance over time. And if you have a question about any stock, you can ask Alpha, their AI for investors. But want to know the smartest part of trading options on Public? Earning rebates on every single contract traded. No other platform provides options trading rebates, and they reduce your trading costs to less than $0 per trade. So, make the smart move and switch the only options trading platform where you can earn rebates on every single contract traded. To learn more, please visit public.com/optionblock. Paid for by Public Investing. Options not suitable for all investors and carry significant risk. Full disclosures in podcast description. U.S. members only. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.